Good morning, good morning, good morning, guys. We wait a few minutes for people to jump on. We are live on Facebook and YouTube today. So we normally wait a few minutes. We get some Facebook people first, and then we get some YouTube people, and then we kind of jump in. It's Wednesday, guys.
Is it really? Every week I'm like, man, this has been the longest week. I'm like, oh, it's Monday afternoon. Okay.
Yes, it's Wednesday. This morning I woke up and I was like, oh, it's Wednesday. It's an early morning. Happy Wednesday, guys. Drop your hellos in the comments. Let us know you're here and you're watching. We're going to get started in 1 minute. It's Startup Bytes Day. Good morning, Mom. Get started in in 1 minute we'll get started. Let people jump on. It's also the inbound conference, so we may get some people on, some people not, just depending. But the replays do really well.
That's all that matters. That's why the replay is there, right?
Yes. All right, let's get started. Good morning, guys, and welcome to another episode of Startup Bytes. Startup Bytes is our weekly series where we give you 5 tips in 15 minutes. So today we have Brittany on. First, I probably should introduce myself. I'm Kenesha. I'm the program manager here at Startup Tucson. And today my co-host is Brittany McBean. Brittany, please introduce yourself.
Hi. So I am a conversion copywriter and online marketing strategist. Those are fancy words, and all they mean is I write words for online entrepreneurs and course creators that sell their stuff. So I specialize in conversion personality packed copy. I clearly need more coffee. I can't even say all that. I write words that sound like you and sell your stuff. That's what I do. I am a work-at-home mom with my husband now home full-time because we're still kind of locked down. And so, yeah, we're just living that 2020 toddler parent life, juggling work and just doing our best. So that's me in a nutshell.
Perfect. You have the toddler work turn up going on. I love it.
always. I like just saw them pull in. So if you hear like a mom, it's just a 2-year-old.
All right. What are we covering today? What are we talking about today? What are your tips?
Well, I thought if you guys wanted, we could chat about some conversion copy tips. And just to be really clear, when I say conversion copy, what I mean are sales words that call people to action. So there is a big difference behind just writing something that's interesting or writing something that is considered good writing. Copy is not usually good writing. It's not usually going to pass your AP English teacher's scorecard, but this is the copy that is going to call your reader to take the action that you want them to take. And I think some of these tips might surprise you a little bit, but this is something I get asked the most about, like, how do I write in a way that sounds like me, that communicates who I am as a person, especially if we are some sort of personal brand or a more personal business, but also calls people to action. So that's what we're going to chat about today.
Perfect. Well, let's jump into it. Brittany, what is tip number 5?
Okay, so this one's a little more generic and overarching, but I just figured we'll start here. So number 5 is get clear on your message. Everyone says that. That can feel kind of nebulous. So what I mean by that is understand specifically who you are, what you stand for, what your values are, what you want to say, what you don't want to say. It's okay to not say something. It's okay to speak out against something. Like, are there other people in your industry or in your niche that say things that you are not saying? Get really clear on that. And what message you want to communicate, what soapboxes you want to stand on, even if it doesn't have anything to necessarily do with the specific product you sell. Get clear on exactly how you help people. What is the transformation you offer them? Very specifically, and I do not mean, do not ever say to make your life better or to get you unstuck, because everyone's saying that. That means nothing, right? That means nothing. Yes, you're going to get them unstuck or untired or unfrustrated or unoverwhelmed, whatever. And yes, you're going to make their life better, but that means nothing when you say it in the internet space. So get very clear on how you help people, the specific transformation you offer them, and exactly who you want to work with so that you can speak to those people. So It is okay if this comes from trial and error. This isn't an exercise of you like sitting, brainstorming in your notebook and then doing it. You're going to have an experience of saying things and being like, oh, that felt weird. Like I said that because I thought I was supposed to and it didn't fit. And cool. We know that's not your message. Or maybe you say something that feels scary and new and different, but you got a lot of really good responses, or it just felt really good to say. Like, that's probably your message. And the more you serve clients and customers, you'll get clear on who is not a good customer or client for you and who is. So you learn this by doing, but I do really encourage you to get very clear and very specific. Some people call this niching down. You can't get too specific. So understanding who you are, what you want to say, what you're not saying, how you help people, what transformation you offer them, and who do you want to work with and who do you not want to work with. I just want to give you permission to get narrow and clear and specific and double down. So that's where we're starting from. That's tip number 5. You got to start there.
Okay, that was a lot. That was a mouthful. That was a lot to take in, but you really broke it down for everyone to understand it, and really get clear on the first part of their message, and know that it's okay that you find people that you don't want to work with or that are just not in your box. Like, everyone's not your customer. So I think with the words as you're going, it'll kind of clear that out for them.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and you learn by doing. Like, just start saying stuff.
A lot of stuff. A lot of words, just give it to them and see what happens.
Yeah.
Yes. Tip number 4.
Okay, so when it comes to writing, so tip number 5 was all about the messaging. And so that's what you're communicating. And there's a difference between message and copy. So that's something that I don't think a lot of us understand. And so now we're going to talk a little bit more about copy. So message is what you're saying it. Copy is the words you use to communicate your message, what you're saying it. I already told you I'm a toddler. I don't think I have to apologize for anything. Shoot up and down. What you're saying is the message. The message you're communicating. The copy is the words you're using to communicate it. So number 4, talking about copy, I want you to write the way you talk, not the way you write. So you now have permission to break every single English rule that you've been told, as long as your content is readable, right? Like, it has to be readable. So yeah, spelling would be great. But in terms of grammar and all of the rules, breaking up your paragraph so that there's some white space. Feel free to have a bajillion ellipses if you're trying to communicate space in between your sentences. You can write with bold letters and italics and underline and the strike throughs so that people are getting that feel as if they are sitting right next to you and talking to you. Like, I talk in asides all the time. Like, I'm always trying to make some snarky joke in a conversation I'm having. So my copy is full of parentheticals, right? It's always like, that's what she said right next to it, right? There's always that joke in there because I'm trying to, I want to be having a conversation with them. And so starting your sentences with and but and because, always using contractions instead of using 2 different words. Because when you're talking with someone, you don't say, you will come over my house today. You're like, you'll come over at this time, or I'll be there at this time, right? So write the way you talk, not the way you write, because people read as if you're talking to them. So like, formal is not professional. I think that that's something I really need you to understand. Like, you can come across as a competent authority figure and a professional in your industry, and you do not have to write like you're writing a college essay. So number 4 is write the way you talk, not the way you write.
I like that. That's a whole nother show, but I really like that you broke that down, because I know sometimes I'm writing copy and I'm like, oh no, I have to make it more professional. But that's not the way I talk. So I want to make sure that sometimes they get it and sometimes they don't. But then I've realized that if they don't, sometimes they come back to just see if they are going to get it as they're going through the process.
Yeah. And you can read it out loud, like if as you're reading out loud, you're like, ew, that feels weird, like coming out of my mouth. I would never talk like that. Well, then just go back and rewrite it, tweak it. You don't have to. I think, and this is, again, each of these are their whole own lesson, but a lot of us are in saturated industries. Whatever you're doing, we just now have the freedom to do it as an entrepreneur. So there's a lot of other people doing what we do. So the more we can let our personality shine through and kind of strip back that formality, the more we're empowering our customers and clients to make really informed decisions to work with us over the next man or woman. So do it.
Yay. Okay. Tip number 3.
Okay. Once you figure out what you want to say. We've got our message. We're comfortable with writing in a really personality-packed way. Now we have to figure out how we are going to communicate our message so that our person, our ideal client, our customer hears it. And so this is a really big hang up for a lot of people because they're like, they have their ideas in their head, the way that they describe their framework, describe their methodology, describe the solution that they offer and the problems their audience is having and the jargon in their industry. But if you're not using the words that your audience is using, then there's always going to be a disconnect. So you have to take your message and use their words to communicate it. And that means doing some research. So I always say, like, you should be able to very like metaphorically speaking, pop up in whatever they are Google searching. So like if they are asking for it in this way, then you position it in that way. You don't position it in your way. So I have a whole process in my business that I call data mining that I do for my clients. And that means that I go out and I stalk and listen and copy and paste and quantify what we call voice of customer. But in a really simple way, what this means is I'm getting in the room with my client's ideal client and customer, and I'm listening to them. And I'm specifically listening for the frustrations they're having, the pains and problems they're having, their dreams, wants, hopes, and desires, how they judge themselves, what like the ways that they criticize themselves, what they criticize themselves for, what embarrasses them, what are they ashamed of, what problems they have, the solutions they're asking for, and then what they are saying they want versus what you think they need, because you always have to start the conversation in their head. You have to start whatever it is that you want to say. You've got to back it up and start where they are in their head. And you only know that by listening to them. So listen, pay attention, shed your ego, stop using your words and your jargony lingo and say what they are saying, even if it means you don't feel like you're being an authority or a professional, because all that means is that you're actually just talking to them in a way that they can hear it.
Look, I don't even have anything to say. That is right. You hit the nail on the head with that one, because it is about like them understanding what they want, but also talking to them in a way where they understand it and it's already implanted. And now you're just kind of giving it back to them to kind of warm them up, to bring them in. There's a lot.
Because it's a journey, right? Like you can talk about what they need and the transformation in your solution, either at like the bottom of a sales page, once you've entered the conversation in their head and brought them there, or like in your paid solution. But if you're not starting where they are, you'll never get to take them where they need to be. So you've got to sacrifice everything you think you want to say for what they need to hear.
Yes. Okay. Tip number 2.
Okay, we'll go fast. The rule of 1. Okay, every single thing that you write, whether it's an Instagram caption, whether it is a blog post, an email, a sales page, you are writing one offer to one reader with one big idea or goal and one call to action. Okay, so we're not writing to everyone in our audience, and we're not writing about all the things that we do. You can write about all the different things you do to all the people in your audience in different pieces of content, but you're always following the rule of 1 for everything that you're writing, because your customer is always reading, asking themselves, what's in it for me? So you are, that's tip number 1. I got ahead of myself. Okay, going back. Number 2, rule of 1. Sneak peek, rule of 1. One offer, one and only offer. You're only offering them one solution with one goal, one story, one big idea to one reader with one and only one call to action. Not go here or here or here or here or email me and text me. No, one call to action to one offer to one reader.
How important is the call to action?
Very. It depends. Yeah, it depends. If it's an Instagram post, like it's not going to be as sales heavy, and a sales page, it's going to be a little more different. But if you don't tell them where to go, they will not know what to do. Like you have to tell them to take action. Don't say, let me know. Don't just leave it with you love it. Go here, click here, check it out here, grab this now, enroll now, whatever it is, tell them what to do it.
We talk about that all the time, how important a call to action is. So I have noticed everyone that's come on has talked about a call to action. So I'm going to do a whole show on call to actions. I don't know when, but it's just going to have to happen at this point.
If you ever want to talk CTA button copy, Well, that's just a super fun conversation.
Well, you're coming back, so we're gonna have a lot to talk about anyway.
I'll be
Well,
here.
what is your number one tip?
I know I started to give it away. So the number one tip, if you remember nothing else about copy or content or anything you're writing, you have to remember this. Your copy and your content is always, always, always about your reader, not you, not your business, not your story. Even if you're sharing your story, even if you're sharing about what you can do for them, it is always for the reader. I want everything you write to go through the lens of the reader asking themselves, what's in it for me? Everyone reading, if they're taking 2 seconds to read what you've written on the internet, they are asking themselves, what's in it for me? And if you can't answer that for them quickly, well, they're going to scroll or go change a poopy diaper or go like start grocery shopping, right? You have to write to them. Tell them what is in it for them. Even if you're writing an about page, even if you're sharing your story, it is about how you help them, how you are their guide, how you have experienced something similar to what they're going through. So I want you, after you write your copy, I want you to do like a find search and see how many times you have the word me, I, us, we. And then I want you to see how many times you have the word you. And if you doesn't like 3 times outweigh the other one, well, then you've got a problem and you need to go adjust things. And a really easy way to adjust is try to see how many sentences you can write that have the word you at the beginning. And you can go back and like take the word you out, but no matter how, if you're writing a 2,000 word sales page or a 300 word website page or just an Instagram post, how many times can you put you in the front of a sentence? And if you can do that with a good chunk, a good portion of your content, then you really you have the right balance that where it is reader centered copy, if that makes sense.
I like that. I don't think as you're writing your copy, you think about that. Mm-hmm. And then to go back and look for you and take out I, like that's a lot of just like thinking about how you're connecting with them and how they will kind of connect with you. And I like that.
It makes a big difference. Like in your about page, like nobody gives anything about where you went to college. Nobody cares about where you went to college, right? Because it has nothing to do with them. It doesn't make you look smarter or cooler. Like get your resume out of your about page. How do you help them transform?
Well, let's do a quick review of all of your tips. So what was tip number 5?
Tip number 5 was get clear on your messaging, understand specifically who you are, what you want to say, what you're not saying, how you help people, and who you want to work with and who you do not want to work with.
Tip number 4.
Write the way you talk, not the way you write.
And tip number 3?
Number 3 was use their words to communicate your message.
Tip number 2?
A rule of 1, write 1 offer to 1 reader with 1 big idea and 1 and only 1 call to action.
And tip number 1?
Write your copy about the reader, not yourself.
I love all your tips. They were so perfect. Brittany had a ton of more tips, so she's going to come back for another episode. But Brittany, tell us what you have going on, where we can find you, all the things. Where's the baby? All things.
She's adorable and she's downstairs. And if I brought her up here, she would just start breaking things. So she's a monster. No, she's the best. She's 2 and she's precious. The best way to connect with me, honestly, is on my email list. That's where I give the most value. I show up, give tips, pre-sales, freebies, all this stuff. So if you want to go to brittanyMcBean.com/quiz, I have a fun little surprise for you. There's a fun quiz there where you can find your marketing X factor. And so that's going to help you figure out exactly what people see in you that you can capitalize on to really up your marketing game. So that could be a fun way to connect, and that will get you on my email list. Right now, I am busy writing some 6-figure launches for clients with online courses. I'm working on my own course, and just excited to wrap up this year strong, which is crazy that we're like looking at the end of the year, but we really are.
It's already September, end of September almost.
I know.
I don't even know. We blinked and it was done. So that's good and bad all at the same time.
So true.
Well, guys, let me tell you what we have coming up. Next week, we have Fundamentals Q&A. That's September 29th. That's at lunchtime from 12 to 1. Make sure you register at startuptucson.com. Next week, we have Startup Bytes at 9 a.m., and we're talking all about Pinterest. So make sure you guys follow my friend Brittany at BrittanyMcBean.com. She's also on Facebook and Instagram, which is always great. She gives out some great tips as well as does some lives in the morning. And thank you for joining us for another episode of Startup Bytes, and we will see you next week. Have a great week, guys. Bye.